West Ham and Newcastle begin our 2021 Premier League campaigns when they meet at the London Stadium tomorrow night, Saturday night, live in front of the cameras. And do you know what? We have two sides that have plenty in common. Unpopular owners, loyal and disgruntled fan bases, underachievement on the pitch, but managed by two perceived dinosaurs who have actually done quietly convincing jobs under difficult circumstances. Welcome back to Irons United. My name is Anton. Of course, I am joined by Matt for our match day build-up preview show. Make sure as we go along, subscribe, like, thumbs up, and yeah, just keep the comments coming in. We'll try our best to get back to you as much as we go. Matt, how are you? You well?
I'm not bad, mate. Yourself?
Yeah, really good, mate. But listen, before I come on to you a little bit more, mate, just to give you a bit more story behind it, West Ham have achieved an impressive feat of being in turmoil before the ball has even been kicked for this season. The sale of Diangana to West Brom went down badly with supporters, as we know, with promises that the funds would be reinvested in players. They've yet to come to fruition. Despite ending last season impressively, David Moyes is already a man under pressure. Newcastle's summer has been dominated by the failed takeover bid from the Saudi Arabia consortium and the realisation that the unloved Mike Ashley remains in charge. However, in a shocking outbreak of competence, they have made a string of signings to strengthen their squad. Matt, it's been a short summer and a pre-season, and just like that, the Premier League is back, but without fans again. How are you feeling about tomorrow's game?
I saw a random stat earlier that no team has lost 5 games in a row, so I think somewhere in the 80s. And it just, West Ham got absolutely smashed that. The fact we've made no signings, I know people are saying, but you got the team from last year. I'm not confident at all. You said, the turmoil's just sort of carried over. It sort of lulled down for a bit, and then we realised that, hang on a minute, we're actually not going to spend any money.
Yeah,
and that's where the problem is. It's grim reading before you even kicked a ball, which isn't what you need the team. The team really at the start of the season, especially with the fixture pile-up we've already got, we really need confidence and buoyance and maybe a sign-in to give a bit of a boost. But
yeah,
same old West Ham, mate. Same old West Ham.
Same old West Ham. Well, listen, we do these match day build-up preview shows and we discuss, and we're going to discuss Newcastle, but we thought let's do something a bit different. We've done it a few times last year, but we're going to bring a guest on, Matt. So before we do, let's talk the opposition and let's talk Newcastle. Guys, please welcome Sharky from Toon Army TV. Sharky, just give everyone a kind of rundown of the channel, etc. Go for it. Welcome to the show as well.
Yeah, thanks for having us on the channel this afternoon. I'm a Newcastle United fan. I run Toon Army TV. I love the club to bits. I do match previews, match reviews. I talk all things Newcastle United, the breaking news. I try to do a bit of Premier League here and there. And I also do match day vlogs from St James's Park and away games as well.
Brilliant, mate. Listen, thanks for joining us today. And again, we'll get all your descriptions and stuff and put it in below. But listen, I mentioned there in a bit of the intro that we're kind of similar in terms of disgruntled fans, loyal fan base, not happy with things that are going on and off the field. Albeit, I know you've made some signatures recently, and we'll talk about that soon. But how are you feeling about the whole scenario about the takeover? And now that you know that Mike Ashley is going to be there for the foreseeable?
Well, it's been a summer of turmoil, really, hasn't it? With Newcastle, it's always the same. There's always a takeover around the corner, then we'll get somewhere. And there's been a bit of back and forth, really, since the Saudi takeover broke down. And it could have made Newcastle one of the richest, if not one of the most powerful clubs, in the country, if not the world. They wanted to come in the PIF and put some money into the club, into the area, and make Newcastle, like I say, more sustainable. And it's a shame, really, that it broke down. There was a few problems with, the Premier League's fit and proper persons test, and it's come out yesterday that the Premier League had rejected it, and there was rumours that it was all down to Richard Masters. Newcastle released a statement saying along the lines of that the Premier League rejected it, and then Richard Masters and the Premier League come out and said it wasn't them. So it's been a bit all over the place, and it's not great having Mike Ashley as your owner, is it? I mean, very similar to your owners. It's really frustrating because you want to see your club go in the right direction. You want to see your club, win trophies, whether that be the FA Cup or the League Cup. I'm not saying Newcastle have a divine right to win the Premier League or have a divine right to be in the top 4. But why can't a club like Newcastle, even West Ham in this sense, get into that top 7? Why should we be, accepting mid-table and, relegation battles? And I think Mike Ashley now, if not before, he should have realised that, that we are a big club and that we should be doing a lot better than. He sort of turned the corner in a sense. He's told everybody in his statement that he wants to sell the football club. So hopefully, maybe in the next few months, or it could be by the end of the season, he's sold it up to somebody. Could the Saudis come back in? I really don't know. But at least we've got a bit of a direction now. At least we know where we're going. We've made some signings, of course.
Well, listen, of course, I mean, you've made a signing that West Ham fans know really well. Callum Wilson, I think he's got 7 goals in his last 8 games against West Ham in particular. I think, I correct me if I'm wrong on those stats. And also, I don't know if you've actually seen his interview when he signed there, and they were saying, do you think he'll be fit for the West Ham game? And he was kind of smarmily laughing away, chugging away at himself, thinking, yeah, I love playing against West Ham. But it's a player that West Ham have been linked to for such a while as well. But you've actually managed to pull them over the line. £20 million though, Sharky. I mean, that's a decent deal, is it not?
It's a steal, in my opinion. I believe he was the club's top target right from the very start. We've been linked with Wilson the past couple of years now, even under Rafa Benitez. But it's just great to know that we've finally got our man, our top target. Last season, we struggled to score goals. We only scored double figures. I think it was Dwight Gale and Joe Linton got 6 goals combined. That is the lowest in the club's history, and we needed to address that. We've got injuries left, right, and centre. Dwight Gale, he's been out. Well, he's now out for up to 3 months. Andy Carroll was only fit an out-and-out striker. Yes, he scored against Crewe and Barnsley, but that for me isn't good enough. And then the rest of them, like Mutu, hasn't got a future at the football club. And then, we haven't really got many options to choose from. We need that focal point. We need that striker who's going to get with double figures. In the club has banked on Wilson to be that man who can get with the goals, providing that he stays injury-free. I believe with the right service, with ASM, Miggy at that number 10, Joe Linton on the left, potentially Hayden and Shelby, pulling their weight in midfield, we could be some force, we could be a force to be reckoned with. It's going to take time to click, but I feel like with Wilson, we've got ourselves somebody who can do it at the top level. Bournemouth, he struggled last season with injuries, but if we can keep him fit, that's the most important thing. I know we're doing battle with Crystal Palace and, of course, West Ham United, but fair play. It shows some sort of ambition from the club, which we haven't seen before in a long time.
Absolutely. But, Matt, I mean, £20 million for, even if it's a gamble with an injury, £20 million is not a bad gamble in today's market. If you get a fit Callum Wilson and he bangs in goals for your club, that's all the difference it takes, really, isn't it?
Well, I think even if he's not fit the whole season, I think he'll get you double figures even if he only plays half the season. He's the sort of guy that, he'll take 2 or 3 games maybe to get going. Once he clicks, he'll start getting it in. And like you said, they've got plenty of assists there. I mean, he didn't even mention, I know I don't know if he's playing this weekend, but they've got Ryan Fraser they brought in as well. And they've played together already. So he's already got someone that he knows how the ball's going to come into him, where he's going to get his chances. I said Almiron playing in behind him, even someone like John Joe Shelby, Maxim. He's going to get chances, Wilson. And I said, as long as you keep him fit, even half the season, 3/4 of the season, he will get you goals. He will, like you said, if you didn't have a double figures last year, he will get you double figures. I think he always scores goals,
Absolutely.
Like I said, it's just the injury record.
I just brought up another image of another player you've brought in, which is Hendrick. He kind of gone under the radar really with that signing. He was a freebie, wasn't he?
Yes.
I mean, there's signs that is he going to start? I mean, is this going to be can you see him being a starter for the side?
Not really. I think he's going to be more in terms of bring him on in the cup games or bring him on maybe second half, see where the game's going. I don't think he'll start against you lot or on Saturday. I think he'll be more come on second half. He's definitely a workman type midfielder who, he'll get up and down the pitch. He'll bring with some sort of quality going forward. And you can't go wrong for a free from Burnley. Someone with some international experience. He's played, a lot of games for Burnley. Over 4 years from 2016 to 2020. Obviously, signing for us, but I think we've done really well, in this transfer window so far with a shrewd signings. You mentioned Ryan Fraser, who's got that link up with Callum Wilson. I think that's really going to help us. And he said in his interview, Ryan Fraser, that we understand each other. If Wilson's at the right place at the right time, I will put a ball into him, and 9 times out of 10 he finishes. Fraser's the same, he'll cut in. He's very good at assisting. But you also didn't mention, is it Jamal Lewis, who we've signed, a left back from Norwich City. I would say it was 13.5 million quid, rising to 15, an absolute steal. With Liverpool getting turned down for his services, a lad who's got international experience with Northern Ireland. He's only 22-year-old. He's got plenty of time in the game, and I feel like he's that left back that we needed. We needed to address, this squad, and we've got that striker, we've got that winger, we've got that left back, and this is an early Christmas present for the tune. We don't often get tripped by Mike Ashley.
And it's funny you're saying that, Sharky, because I can see mine and Matt's faces and probably all our viewers' faces dropping as you're saying that you've
just said striker, left back. That's two things we need.
Yeah.
And you went and done the business.
And
like you said,
players.
they've done it as well. You brought in Hedrick, who's solid centre mid, freebie, Fraser freebie, which is then let you spend the money on Wilson and on Lewis. And you said Liverpool bid 10 million. And this was only, 4 weeks ago? Not even that long ago, was it? Yeah. And the Sky Sports were saying, oh, no, they said they want 20. And you've done a deal at 13.5. So it looks like a deal with Norwich. They went 20 million a month ago, and now it's 13 million.
The reports come out that the club had a £35 million transfer budget. We've spent 33.5 million, including, a couple of frees with, obviously, Ryan Fraser. We've got Mark Gillespie. But talking a bit about Lewis, I think you definitely struggle against him. He's a lad who likes to get up and down the pitch. Paul Dummett, for me, doesn't quite do it. So that's why we brought him in for that reason. Someone who will be positive and he'll get back and you'll hopefully get, ASM and Fraser and Miggy and Shelby, all them into the game. We're looking solid. We're looking good. Because if you'd asked me a week ago, am I looking forward to the new season? I would have been dreading it because you look at that side before we have now, it wasn't all there. But it's looking good to be a Toon fan right now, but that's not to say it's going to be an easy game against you lot. I think you'll be up for it. First game of the season, we need to gel. Just because we brought players in doesn't mean that it's necessarily going to work.
Listen, that's something I was going to bring up because we've been through that scenario where we had a bit of an exciting summer when Pellegrini first came in, Matt, where we were signing players, breaking transfer records, etc. And then we know how that season turned out for West Ham, but we never had the opportunity for the players to gel. And maybe that's the only sign as a West Ham fan that we're looking at. There's no point in sitting here denying saying that we're not looking at Newcastle and slightly jealous of what you've purchased. And the reason why I'll say it's jealousy is because exactly what you've done is exactly what we needed to do. You've addressed 2 areas, but brought in 4 players covering different positions throughout the park. Creative, a shore-up midfielder, left back and a striker. I mean, apart from the shore-up midfielder, every other position you've brought in is somewhere that West Ham could absolutely benefit from. Something to say, though, is obviously it's the first game of the season in the Premier League, and there's been a pre-season. So, I mean, when you look at any of the reports, I think he's played Middlesbrough, and it wasn't a great result for you guys, 5-1 defeat. Then that was followed by a 1-0 defeat to Stoke. What does that? Do you take pre-season to heart really and plan your season in and around the pre-season, or do you kind of where's your head's at with that, Sharky?
I think it's more about fitness more than anything else, getting the lads up to speed, ready for the new season. Before we made the signings, of course, we beat Crewe 3-0, we beat Barnsley 2-1, and then we made the step up to some sort of mid-table, bottom-end championship clubs. In Middlesbrough, we got beat 5-1. That's where the worries started to really come in. We got beat 1-0 off Stoke, and I feel like the board needed to react. Steve Bruce needed those, players through the door, and I still believe there's more transfers coming in just right as I speak. So we're not stopping there. We're doing plenty more deals, and there's obviously departures. Lejeune going to Alaves and Darlow and Hayden signing contracts. But in terms of the new season, it's difficult to say really because the first game of the season is a lottery. It doesn't matter whether you sign, a lot of players that we have or whether you don't at all. West Ham, like I say, are a big club. You've got some decent players there. You just lack a little bit of quality up front. I think that's what he's lacking there. We're going to have to be on our game. We're going to have to gel very quickly because if we don't, like you said last season, you could easily get found out.
100%. If you look at some of the form from Newcastle for the last 5 competitive games that you've played, it doesn't look great in the Premier League, does it? I mean, that season only finished for 3 or 4 weeks ago, so I think you drew 1 in 5, and then the rest you lost. Yeah, is that right? But I mean, I suppose, I mean, it's what I'm only bringing it up because do you think that will be a carry forward, or you've done enough in the season to do what you needed to do? Where are you at with Steve Bruce? I mean, historically, him and Moyes are known as the dinosaurs, probably, of the league. But I mean, I suppose you weren't a fan when you first brought him in.
Yeah, Steve Bruce he's a bit of a divide, really. Some fans like him, some fans don't. I wasn't a big fan of Steve Bruce when we brought him in. I mean, how can you go from Rafa Benitez to Steve Bruce? Steve Bruce not having the experience of Rafa winning all these trophies and doing well at Newcastle, putting something together, getting us out of the Championship and stabilising this club, to be a good, Premier League club, for the next few years to come and getting into that, European spot. He wanted a bit of money. I don't know what happened. He wasn't backed, and then we bring Bruce in. It didn't look very good at the start, losing to the likes of Norwich City 3-1, 5-0 to Leicester City. But, we're starting to turn it around. The second half of the season, we continued the good form. But then as we got safe, the players just sort of acted like they were on the beach. The season was done. But in terms of this second season for Steve Bruce, I feel like it's a season now where he needs to shine as Newcastle manager, because with the signings that were brought in and with the quality that were brought in, then there's no excuse. There's simply no excuse that we can't score goals and that we can't show up the defence. There's no excuse that we can't, get off to a good start of the season. And there's simply no excuse that we can't finish any higher than 13th. Because if you'd asked me before we made the signings, we were going to definitely finish below 13th place. Yeah. But with the signings now, why can't we make a top 10 push? I'm not saying the European spots, but why can't, as a club of Newcastle stature, start looking up rather than down?
Absolutely. Out of the new signings, who do you see starting on Saturday, tomorrow?
I think it'll be Wilson. I would say Jamal Lewis, and possibly. I think that'll be about it, really. Yeah. I don't think anybody else will start. I think you look at Jeff Hendrick. I think he'll come off the bench. I'd say Fraser is touch and go, not because he's got an injury, just he hasn't played for a long time. Steve Bruce mentioned it in his press conference. He may start in the second half. So, a little bit of pace for pace there if he takes off ASM or someone like that. Just a couple, maybe, not too many.
Yep. But what about bringing this man off the bench? We all know him very well, Mr. Andy Carroll. He ended up, did he not have like 4 assists for you last year? Pretty much performing off the bench. And we all know a fit Andy Carroll is sometimes unplayable, and that's a good option to have. I think the deal you've got with him is it pay as you play?
Yes, you're spot on. We brought him in from yourselves at West Ham for free, pay as you play. And last season, despite him, being in the treatment room as he always is, but when he's played, yes, he didn't score, but he's very good at assisting. He's that fox in the box. He's that menace. Let's just say you're 1-0 down and you're looking to try and get back into the game with maybe 10, 15 minutes to go. You bring on Andy Carroll, you get balls into the box, and you just hope that he gets his head in it, or he just gets the ball over the line or something like that. It just brings more, players into the game, like a Joe Linton or possibly an ASM or a Miggy.
With Andy Carroll, though, what he could do is, and the excitement for, say, a player like Callum Wilson is, if what you said, if Callum Wilson can last the full 90 minutes, if you bring Carroll on for the last 20, he's going to be loving those knock-on balls. He is going to be lapping them up because, we know what Wilson's capable of. He's pacey, and he likes to get, he likes to challenge the defenders, etc. The two of them up top with the last 20 minutes to go can give a new lease of life to your other player that's currently on the park as well.
Yeah, exactly. It just gives them more strength and depth going forward, and it gives them that more of a focal point as well. Carroll and Wilson working alongside each other. ASM, putting the ball into the box and trying to cause a nuisance to the defence. Of course, Miggy, trying to bomb it down that pitch. It's going to look good. I think if Andy Carroll can get a good relationship, with the new players, why not? Why can't Andy Carroll, get a couple of goals? He's due a couple of goals back for us in the Premier League. He hasn't scored since he left in 2011, but I think he has what he has got what it takes. I'm sure he's playing you lads at the right time, because at the end of the day, there's no fans there, so he's not going to get cheered or whatever. But from what I heard at West Ham, he was okay. He wasn't too bad, was he? He just had a few injuries here and there.
What do you think, Matt?
Yeah, no, it was the injuries. Whenever he played, he was effective. He scored goals, but for us, it was just I think when I saw him playing for you guys last year, you were smart, and a lot of the times you brought him off the bench and gave him 15, 20, 30 minutes. Whereas we always had this thing at West Ham when we're desperate for players, and as soon as they get any sort of fitness, they get back in the team. So Andy Carroll was going from not fit and injured to straight back playing 70, 80 minutes, and he'd last 5, 6 games, get a goal or an assist, and he'd come back down again. If you manage his playing time, you will get a lot out of him, and you know what he can do, like you said, even if it is just 20, 30 minutes off the bench every game. You'll get that out of him quite comfortably. It's just how you treat him. And we didn't knowing what we know with the injuries he's got, we never managed the situation well enough. But he always had goals in him. He'll always be remembered for the overhead kick he scored against Crystal Palace. It was a fantastic goal. He scored, and that hat-trick Antonio scored against Norwich at the back end of the season was the first hat-trick we'd scored since Andy Carroll scored one against Arsenal at Upton Park.
Arsenal,
So
Sharky,
we know what he's like.
Sharky, West Ham versus Newcastle, the whole lifetime of the results have led to West Ham winning 42 times, Newcastle winning 56 times and 38 draws. What do you think the result will be tomorrow night?
Well, I'll just say a little bit on West Ham.
Go for
I
it.
hope you get your ownership situation sorted out. You're a big club. I love your fan base. I don't know too much with the stadium. I still think you should have stayed at Upton Park or maybe built a new stadium. You deserve so much better. Your fan base, it really, really does. You're very alike to us. Passionate fans. You're always behind the side, and I do believe that you are in the top 7 as well. I do think, like Newcastle, like ourselves, we should be challenging at the top. And I feel like both of us have been royally screwed over by our owners. I just hope that if it's Moyes or whoever the manager is, going forward, that he gets backed. Even before October, you get the players in that you need, and that you can get rid of some of the deadwood. I think for the game on Saturday, it's going to be tight. As I've mentioned, it's the first game of the season. I don't know what to expect. You don't know what to expect. You could probably expect a defeat, of course, with what's going on in the background, but you never know. With what's going on with the fans, the players might have looked at that thinking, actually, we really need to step up here, because once the fans get back in to that Olympic Stadium, if we're not performing, then, we're going to get it in the head. We're going to get it. So I just think Steve Bruce needs to find out his right formation. He needs to really, needs to know how to get the best out of the new lads that we've got. It's going to take a bit of time, but I think it will be a tight game. So I'm going to go for a 2-1 to Newcastle.
Cool. Listen, we appreciate that. You're a Newcastle fan. That's what's going to happen. Wait till you get to our predictions, although it'll be interesting. Last question I'm going to ask you before you head, Sharky, is who's the man that West Ham should watch in the Newcastle side?
You mentioned Callum Wilson, but I would say ASM. ASM is our go-to man just to get us down that pitch, just to take players out of the game, like your defence. And the way things have been going with you guys lately, conceding a load of goals, not scoring enough goals, if we can get him in the right places at the right time, then I'd say it's definitely got to be ASM for me.
And who's the West Ham man you fear the most?
I would say Felipe Anderson, in my opinion. I think he's such a good talent. I just feel like he's not really getting the best out of himself. I don't believe he's shown his true potential, in my opinion, whether that's because you've changed managers with Moyes and you've changed, obviously, with Pellegrini in the past, you've got different styles. I feel he's a good player. I do like him. I feel like he's got pace. I feel like he's got a lot more to offer. And if he plays on Saturday, he is the one I'm watching out for. You could say Antonio as well, because of the goals he scored last season. But again, it will be a difficult game. But I would say, Anderson for me. Brilliant.
Listen, mate, thank you so much for coming on. We're going to go and have a chat about West Ham. Really appreciate your time, and hopefully we'll have you back on for the return leg in the new season. And really appreciate you coming on. So make sure, if you are a Newcastle fan or even West Ham fan, want to go and check out the channel. I'm assuming you've done it. I know you've done a preview for the game. Sorry,
yes,
I've seen it. So go and check it out as well on Toon Army TV. Sharky, thank you very much, mate, and we'll get carried on with the West Ham stuff.
Yeah, but make sure you subscribe to your channel as well. Great stuff, and thank you very much for having us on, lads. See you later.
Take it easy. Bye-bye. Matt, that was good. Really nice insight from Sharky there from Toon Army TV. It's really interesting to hear opposition points of view to things like the owners and players like Felipe Anderson as well. Like the fan base.
That was an interesting one. Yeah.
Well, it is interesting, but is it interesting because we all know that he is a player there?
No, it was more interesting the fact that it's not. Sometimes as a fan of a club, a fan of a team, you as a fan, you see them every game. It's not like like on Sky when the pundits go, "Oh, this player's this and this player's that," and you're like, you've only seen them 4 times on TV this year. You haven't actually been to the game. You haven't been to the ground and watched. So the fact that he said, Anderson's a danger man, you haven't seen the best of him. He need, there's something wrong with himself. He needs to bring it out of him. But there's a player there and he hasn't done it.
Yeah,
shows you that it's not just the West Ham fans going, look, he needs to pull his socks up. He's not, the player's there and he hasn't done it. It's other fans are saying he's there. It's just not. He's not produced the form. He produced the, the quality that's there. So it was quite an interesting insight.
Yeah.
I think he's right with Maxim. I think, I think even if he undersold, and I think Maxim will have an absolute field day against Creswell.
Well,
Personally.
listen, let's start looking at West Ham a little bit. So, of course, we started off pre-season quite confidently, thrashing both Ipswich and Wickham on the same day before edging past the Brentford 2-1. And then our optimism was punctured by a 5-3 thrashing of newly relegated Championship side Bournemouth. And, it was comical defending really throughout, to be honest. And that's always going to be one of our biggest problems, unless people always talk about fullbacks, it's centre backs. It's, Moyes today has spoken out and said that Tarkowski, he's made the bid, he's put it out there, he wants, and that, that's going to be his priority, Matt. And, people always go on about the fullbacks, but I see why he needs that as a priority, because we don't have a central pairing that are confident enough. But what I was going to say to you was there's two particular players that have been missing throughout the whole pretty much of pre-season. But how much have we missed these two guys? Souček and Declan Rice, mate.
Well, that is our midfield too. We all know this as well. Is that if they're both, we can afford to lose one of them, right? We can afford to have one of them injured. But if we have a period of the season when they're both injured, your midfield two is then your holding midfield two is then becoming Mark Noble and Josh Cullen. And it's no offence, but it's not the same. Cullen will get around the pitch, but he's not got the defensive ability of Noble or Souček. And, the thing with Souček as well is that, he's had half a year now. We need the goals. You saw he got 3 goals in the 9 games after lockdown. He could be a guy that goes and gets double figures this year, just from his aerial ability from set pieces and corners.
But isn't it funny, though, because he wasn't brought in as that potential player?
He wasn't, but if you actually looked at his record, he has done it. He has. The last 3 years, he's hit double figures every year. He does score. He is, I coined it and I said the term when we first brought him in. Moyes has got his new Fellaini.
Yeah,
he's a destructive midfielder.
Hasn't he? He said that today.
He is. That's what he brought him in as a Fellaini. He's a tall, destructive box-to-box midfielder that's got a technical ability and he's dominating in the air. That's what he is. Yeah. But, the Brentford game, I didn't see the Brentford game, but I heard it was like, anytime Bournemouth wanted to walk forward, they just walked through the midfield.
100%.
And
they did, and I think
it wasn't until Cullen came on that he sort of got his head down and started passing the ball about that we started doing something.
Yeah. But I think that was the problem, though. You had, especially in Project Restart, even prior to that, though, we got to see this trio of players, Souček, Noble and Rice playing really well. And, Souček coming in really gave Noble a whole new lease of life, to be honest. And, we were talking earlier on in the chat today and we were all chatting about how do we see the game turning out tomorrow. And I was reading everyone else's opinion, and my opinion came out from, it depends on what's that midfield, is Declan Rice and Souček going to be playing? Today we've heard that Souček will be fit and will make the game as long as Moyes chooses him. We're hoping that Declan...
who would he choose instead?
I know, you know what I mean, and then Declan Rice should hopefully make the game as well. But
he played 90 minutes for England, so there's no excuse for him not to play.
Yeah, exactly.
Unless we're selling to Chelsea.
We had other players obviously out on international duty, but is it, we've touched on the fact that Josh Cullen's there as well. Can you see him? His last performance for West Ham, he was kind of one of the standout players for West Ham, pretty much one of the only players that stood out for West Ham because 2 assists, really, really good. And like you said, he did change the game. It wasn't like setting the world alight, and yes, it's pre-season, but he did change the game.
I don't know if I said this on the video, but I know I said it in the chat, and I was like, look, there was rumours last month that Palace and Fulham both wanted him. So straight away, you've got 2 other Premier League teams looking at him that want to bring him in. So obviously the quality's there. Now, it's only one game. It was only against Brentford. But he's shown the last year that he's got the quality to play in Championship. But he's only got, I think, a year left on his contract. So you're not going to get mega money for him. Knowing Sullivan, we might get $1 million for him if we sold him.
Yeah.
For what he can do that Noble role of picking up the ball and passing it to the better players, covering the pitch, just ticking the play along. He can do that. And you're not going to be able to replace him for the money you've got, especially as an English player. So for me, people keep saying, this is his last chance. I think for me, this really is his last season to prove if he can do it or not. Now, I don't think he's going to be a starter at all, but I said the player to play the Noble role, because don't forget Noble's 34 at the end of this season. He's got the opportunity there to come in and be that guy. You know, we saw he had a good set piece delivery. You know, he got, you know, he gives energy to the midfield as well. You know, if he's playing Noble's position, that's the one thing Noble does sort of lack, and why he got the new lease of life when Souček came in. Because before that, Noble was trying to still be the box-to-box guy that he was 7 years ago.
Yeah.
But he hasn't got the legs to do that now.
Of course.
Whereas Cullen does.
It'll be an interesting one, though, because I think, you know, if as long as Souček is fit, you know, the whole confusion over him going away, playing, being in contact with someone positive, the main thing is he's out of it and he doesn't need to quarantine, or maybe he's quarantining time, I don't know, but he'll be back
in 7 days.
Yep, so we've got him, Rice and Noble available, Cullen potentially sitting on the bench. On top of that, you've heard today that apparently rumours are kicking about saying that West Ham are trying to exploit or try and get rid of Jack Wilshere. I mean, he's had a bit of pre-season time. Moyes said today that he's looked well, he's been training well, he's fit, he's ready. You know, are West Ham trying to free up as much money as they possibly can so Moyes can go and do it? And realistically, will Wilshere be given that shot? Because, you know, from what we saw of pre-season, were you impressed with Wilshere or not?
Not really, but then I don't think he's played in a position that he should have been played in.
Yeah.
You know, they played him in the Declan Rice role when they should have been playing him in that number 10 role that Noble was playing in. Like we said it on these previews, in that post-lockdown session, the last 9 games, I think we said it before the Norwich game. We were like, why is he playing Noble as the number 10?
Oh, Matt, I've lost you, mate. I can see you, but I can't hear you. There you go. That's you. That's you back.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I got you now. Yeah.
Sorry, I don't know what happened, mate. I was just saying, you know, we said in the post-lockdown, we said, you know, if Wilshere, we played Norwich and Noble played number 10. I remember we all lost it before that game. We were like, we're playing 3 CDMs against Norwich. And if Jack Wilshere's not going to get the run out against Norwich in the number 10 role, which he's made for, when's he going to play it? You know, and you said the game, I think he started against Brentford. Again, he played the holding role.
Yeah.
That's never going to be Jack Wilshere's position. And it's an interesting one because if the rumor is they're going to offer it, they're going to pay him that 2 million to leave. Now, paying him that 2 million would then save them over the season 3 million. It's if he wants it or not. You know, he put out an Instagram post himself yesterday of just like, oh no, basically saying he was ignoring everything and just getting his head down and training and what happened.
But it's a bit of a, you know, we done a finance video the other night. Again, it wasn't to be pro or anti-board. It was literally, let's have a look at the finance and see where they physically are. Then we make our judgment based upon that kind of thing at a video. And, you know, we know things are tight, but to try and pay up a player to save £1 million, are things that tight? You know, is it not
3 million?
No, but you know what I mean. Sell it, get rid of the player for 2. Save 3 to make a saving of.
It depends on if Moyes gets that 3 million.
Yeah,
that's the issue.
Yeah,
if they're paying him up 2 million to leave, and then they're just pocketing, well, not say pocketing, but that's then going back to budget up the finances. You know, balance that. There's no point. Yeah. But if they're doing it and saying, well, we'll give him 2 million, and then that 3 million, I don't know what that is.
It depends on, you know, for me, Matt, it depends, I suppose, on his ability. It depends on will Moyes use him or not, or will he stay fit or not. And I think there's other players there. I think it's time. I'm more gutted that it's not worked out for him at West Ham, if I'm being brutally honest. I think every West Ham fan probably is. I think we were all.
He's a West Ham fan himself, wasn't he? We all wanted to work out.
We know what his career, we know what he's capable of, and that's the frustrating part. It's just the injuries have held him back, and maybe it is time that he kind of comes off our books. But again, today, mate, I mean, more rumours kicking about that West Ham have been, Yarmolenko's been linked to going to the Chinese Super League.
I could see him going.
I can see him going, mate. I mean, because they'll pay a fee, they'll pay a good fee probably, and he'll probably get out there with a decent weekly
10-15. You'll probably get 10-15 million for him.
Yeah, and he'll walk out with a really good weekly wage. Now, how much of that would impact West Ham? Because he's been vital for us, and I mean, it was spoken about today.
They are still linked, and there's a link rumour come out again today. I can't pronounce the guy's name. The right mid at Slavia Prague. They were linked with him back at the start of the window, and in the last couple of days, this rumour's come back in. Like, apparently, they offered 5 million at the start of the window. and they wanted more. And apparently now they've offered the same money again, and now the club's actually debating whether to accept it. So obviously their financial situation has changed. So the fact that that's come out like the last couple of days, and now today they're saying Yarmolenko could go, it almost looks like, maybe West Ham have gone out and said, hey, tell some agents, Yarmolenko's available for a decent fee, and China's come calling. For him, he's 30. Is he 31?
I think he's only just 30, isn't he, or 31?
But he's 30, 31. He'll get good money out there, and it won't affect his ability to play in the national team. And for us, he's never had the pace. But again, it's the thing of, if they get that 10 million and they get this guy from Slavia Prague for 5 million, which, Souček recommended, that's another 10 million. That could then get you a right back or a left back.
Does those potential 2 decisions and 2 exits for West Ham project this guy back into the side, Felipe Anderson, as Sharky was saying from Toon Army TV? We know he's a player there. We know there's a player there, Matt, and we know he's going to play a vital role. But he's got to be played in the right position and fed really.
He should be playing number 10, but I think he can still play on the left wing or the right wing if he's got someone solid enough behind him. Yeah. And we saw a lot of time last year. He spent a lot of time tracking back in the left back position, doubling up, and he doesn't really want to be. Obviously, he's got to track back. If the fullback and the winger on his side both go, he has to track back.
Yeah.
But there was times where the fullback wasn't going, but because Creswell was just getting knocked past him and running, he was the guy with legs. He had to track back and go and get it. And he's probably got more and more frustrated and more, mentally demoralised because he's not attacking at all. He's just defending. And then whereas in his first season, he was doing all the nutmegs and the tricks and the flicks, and it was all paying off. And it was almost like his form went entirely out the window last year. And everything he tried failed. Like every time he tried, in his first season, he'd done, we was saying, people were saying, oh, he can nutmeg a mermaid his first season, because every time a flick knocked around the corner, he was done and gone. And in the second season, it's almost like people had wised up that he's got that trick. No, we're not letting this happen now. And he couldn't find a way to do it. So for me, it is one where I think Yarmolenko wasn't an option to be sold.
Yeah.
But it is one that if they got the money, he would go. I think, I think Sean said it. I think Nigel said it. I think, most of the ITKs have said everyone in our squad is for sale. It's not like, it's not that it's not that David Moyes and Gold have rung up and Brady have rung up every single club and gone, oh, our players have got this, do you want to buy them? It's everyone's got a price.
Everyone has a price.
And I think for the wages he's on for his age, his impact on the squad, because I don't think he'll ever be a starter, Yarmolenko. I don't think he's got the legs for it.
No.
I think he'll be an impact. The only player I can see him starting is if he started as a second centre forward alongside someone else.
Absolutely.
So I think if they got the money, don't forget, I think he's on like 120 grand a week. He's not on cheap money.
Yeah.
He's on stupid money, same as Wilshere. So if they can sell Yarmolenko, get him off the wage bill, and then they can pay out 2/3. It looks like if they can pay out 2 million of a £5 million contract to Wilshere and save 3 million to put the wages somewhere else, they will do it. That's still big. You're talking 250 grand a month. That's still 60 grand a week to pay someone, even having paid Wilshere off. You've still got that money available. So I think they're two that I could definitely see happening, to be honest. And I don't think they're one that people would be upset about.
Let's have a look at another player that's been, pivotal to West Ham potentially surviving last season, especially in the Project Restart, and it's Jared Bowen. 4 goals in 3 games in pre-season. He's been on fire pre-season. He's been on fire from last season. He's been such an important player for West Ham. I mean, we've in the 40 minutes we've been on, we've been speaking about a lot of players, especially in the midfield area, and there are choices there. I mean, we're not even mentioning things like Lanzini, players like Lanzini, Snodgrass, etc. And then you start to potentially see, and I'm not justifying the Diangana sale, but you start to see that we've got an area of midfielders that are causing problems. And the Jared Bowen thing, the reason I'm going to bring him up as well is the fact that the West Ham media team constantly bigged up the fact that Bowen and Diangana on both the wings, etc. But how important is Bowen going to be to West Ham this season?
Well, he came in. Don't forget, he came in, and we all knew we were desperate for something just to give us a spark. because we were struggling in January when we brought him in. Moyes brought him in and went, not sure about him. I don't know if he's going to adapt quick enough. First game he started, he scored. He could have come off the bench, scored against Liverpool, and already. The reason I haven't spoke about him is because for me he's like a guaranteed starter. You don't even think like if he's fit, he starts on that right wing. Another reason why I could see Yarmolenko going is because he's not going to get a look in with him starting in front of him. But I like the fact as well. I don't know if you saw this I don't know if this was yesterday or the day before. He'd done an interview on the club website, and he basically said that he was like, I'm not a Premier League player yet. I haven't proven it. I've played 6 months Premier League football. I'm not a Premier League player. And you want that mentality in your players because he's not letting it go to his head. He's the complete opposite. He's saying to himself like, no, I need to get better. I can be better. I'm not good enough yet. Which is something we need. If more players had that attitude in our squad, we wouldn't underachieve as much as we do.
Yeah.
But he's going to be critical because he only got 1 goal, but he got a lot of assists, and you already saw in those last 9 games, you saw the link up that he had with Souček. He was putting in balls, and Souček was trying to get him under the end of him every single time. And it's another guy. It's another set piece taker. I'm surprised I didn't see him take any free kicks, which he did for Hull, and he scored some free kicks for Hull. It's like he's like I said this when we first signed him. I did feel a bit harsh, but he's like a young version of Snodgrass.
Yeah, absolutely.
Listen, this is what Snodgrass done 8 years ago.
I'm going to cut you because I said we would try and keep this a short preview, but we've not. We've got more people we want to discuss. So keep subscribing to the channel. Hit the comments. Let us know your thoughts on what we've said. Comment right now with your starting 11, and straight after that, comment just get your starting 11 in there just now. Before we go into our potential starting 11, again, reading in between the lines from Moyes' press conference today, he talks a lot about potentially partnerships up top with Sebastian. He's not said it, but there was a talk about it of potentially playing Antonio and Haller together. Could you see that being a formation that he may start with tomorrow?
As I said, where Starkey was on, I said, look, I think it's before. I said to him before we came on, I said, it seemed to be every time last year, whether it was Pellegrini or Moyes, when we went 4-4-2, Haller scored. And as soon as we went back to the 4-5-1, Haller was like,
yeah,
because he's not going to do the running.
No, of course he's not.
He wants to stay in the middle. He wants to stay in the width of that 6-yard box. Anything wider than that, he wants someone else to go and get it, which is, you can say it's lazy of attitude, it is, but you don't. Do you want Haller running down the wings, crossing for someone else? No, you want Haller to be in the box. I would say it's risky, given the fact that we don't have a third centre forward. We had a third centre forward. And we sold him either option. Hugo and Ajeti went.
Yeah.
Unless that's Silva is now, but apparently Silva's going out on loan. So is that Odiabeko? Does that mean he's already been pulled up? Because otherwise you haven't got a centre forward on the bench if you play both of them.
Yeah. Be interesting to see, I suppose. Let's get on to our defence again before we do our comments with get our comments in with our predictions and get your comments in with the predictions. You're starting 11. Defensively, Matt, we're struggling. We've struggled for years. I've come to the conclusion that we've never replaced James Tompkins and never replaced Winston Reid. And I know there's a lot of chat about the fullback positions, but it's tough to hear Sharky from Toonarmy TV tell us that Newcastle have struggled in that area and have addressed it so far. I don't think it's any question. We're not denying the fact that Moyes wants it. It's just obviously been the backing and having the money. But do you fear that if West Ham start with the same back four that we've done pretty much most of last season, Augie, Diop, Creswell and Johnson or Fredericks, it's just going to be another problem? West Ham are going to have to outscore what we concede?
At the start of the season, I think we need to address the full... this is probably basically the third year in a row now we're having Ogbonna and Diop. And it's one of those where it's like almost they don't feel under pressure because Moyes clearly doesn't rate Balbuena. Balbuena did have, under Pellegrini, when he played with Diop, and they played really well. But Moyes clearly doesn't rate him. So at the moment, it's almost like neither of them have actually got to play for their position, Ogbonna or Diop.
Yeah.
We've only got 3 first-team centre-backs. Declan Rice, you count maybe as a fourth, and you've got the kids, Baptiste and... was it Alessi?
Alessi,
yeah. Yeah. So realistically, it's going to be those again. Johnson had an off game, but I think By sounds
And
of it, a
off
lot
game,
of people
he
did.
literally cry chopped the boy off the ball, as you can see from the image there.
And I think that's
I don't
why
know
he
if that
got pulled off. To be honest,
was that a bit of a fallout from the Diangana sale? I don't know, but a lot of people are.
it looked like it. It looked like a lot of players were kind of putting a thing on about that, saying it's not on. But for me, Bonner and Diop, I don't mind because they kind of complement themselves quite well. You've got a left footer, right footer, and Diop seems to be a bit better when he's told what to do rather than doing the thingy. And Ogbonna's taken that role on in the last couple of years. Ogbonna learnt from Reed. Reed was the guy that
Mate,
marshalled
please,
Ogbonna.
do me a favour.
Ogbonna's learnt from Reed, and Ogbonna now marshals Diop.
No, but he doesn't marshal. I mean, I'll put my hands up and say he's been our best central defender that last season in a bad season, but he certainly doesn't marshal. He sometimes tries to, but the two of them are too similar. You can't have a two centre-back pairing like that. It just doesn't exist. It doesn't work. I mean, you've got two players that step out of position all of the time, and then you look at your back line. You need your central pairing to be a partnership. We've not had a partnership there for such a long time. That will always cause problems to your fullbacks. And that's why I believe, and that's why I trust Moyes with this centre-back priority. We need to address that centre-back issue, because the quicker we can do that, and if you look at a player of Tarkowski's ability and what he's done at Burnley and the style of play that he offers, he's exactly what we should look for, which is the calm, he's clever on the ball, he's strong as well, and I mean he's up for a good tackle, but he doesn't step out as much as maybe what Oggy and Diop are doing. Is that it's going to be, if it is his priority and he can get this one over the line, I mean one of those two players are going to get dropped, and I can't see it being Diop, if I'm being brutally honest.
No, I can't.
Yeah,
I think if he brings a centre back in, he will drop Ogbonna.
Yeah,
but having said that, I think if he does bring a centre back in, that gives him options,
which is what we need.
It will be a case of, if you're playing crap, if you're out of form, then I have the ability to drop you from someone else.
Yeah. And you know what, though, Matt? I mean, you mentioned there Baptiste and Alessi. I think both of them are capable. I watched Alessi against Ipswich, and I know it's pre-season, but he's still got to play to a higher level than what he was currently playing. And he was the standout player between him and Balbuena, completely dominating the defence and also marshalling Balbuena. So it was interesting. But listen, we have been on for a long time. We've got players out on international duty. Fabianski should be back. But let's do a quick run through of our predictions of our starting lineup. So we're going to go for Fab in goal.
Yep.
We're going to go for a back four.
Johnson, Diop, Ogbonna, and Creswell, unfortunately.
Yeah, I'm pretty much, I feel the same. I think that might be the same. Midfield.
Are we going for a 4 or a 5?
I don't... See, today's press conference has made me think he may put two up top.
So if we're going for a 4, I'm going to go Bowen, Rice, Souček, Anderson.
How many times though do we predict these sides and not include Noble, and then bang, the starting lineup comes up?
Only because he made a big thing about Rice today, saying that Rice is being mentored by Noble, and he's already been the captain of the club, and he's the guy going forward. So I think this could be the time where, if we're only playing two in the middle, the Noble won't start.
Yeah, be interesting.
I think he's quite happy to give the captaincy to Rice and be like,
I'd be happy with that though. I'd be happy with that 4.
If he's playing a 3, then I could see it being Noble and Rice and Souček.
Well, that makes sense though, because of what they can potentially do, give Noble that freedom up top to let and allow Rice and Souček to cover, and then they just kind of literally switch as they go along. So then, if it is a 2 up top, it's Hilaire and Antonio, and if it's just a 1 up top,
if it's the 3, if it's the 4-3-3 thing, it will be. I think then you'll find it'll be Bowen for Nows either side of Antonio.
Yeah.
But if it's a 2, I think it'll be Antonio and Haller.
I just can't see him not playing Hilaire. I just can't see it. I think
personally, I don't think he can't. I think he has to play him.
Yeah.
Because he's the better all-round centre forward. But we know Moyes has this affiliation with Antonio, and
of course he does. And that's not. But Matt, we can't not play Antonio.
So then, where do you fit him in? Or do you? Or is he going to put him back on the wing?
I don't want him on the wing.
If he plays a 4-3-3, will he have Bowen on one wing, Antonio on the other, and Haller down the middle?
And this begs the question of, do we need to strengthen in areas that fans think we did? Like, we've not even mentioned Snodgrass. You've mentioned Fornals. We've not mentioned Wiltshire. We've not mentioned Lanzini, mate. I mean, these players, there's so many choices. Again, we don't know what side will come up.
I don't think it was ever a case of that it was they sold a winger. I think it's just who it was. You know, Nigel made the point the other night, and he said the whole point, if nothing else from this move to the new stadium, if nothing else, bottom line was that we didn't have to sell our kids.
Yeah,
this is what the anger come out from, was that we needed money, and you know you shouldn't have had to sell a kid. You know, now there's links this week. It's Yarmolenko, and if Yarmolenko goes for 15 million this week, 2 weeks after they sold Diangana for 18 million, then people are going to start moaning again because like we didn't.
Well, they are, but that would be a decision based upon West Ham potentially bringing some players in, and they have to do it. They have to bring someone in. I don't, you know, I get
from a business sense. It was entirely said because there's nothing to pay out on him. He's an academy product. So it's not like you sell Anderson for 26 million and you still owe 10 million on him.
Yeah.
You know, you get the full 18 million. So from a business standpoint and from the size of the squad and where we're overloaded with players, it made sense. It's just the homegrown thing, I think, hit hard with people.
Listen, I don't think we're capable of doing a 30-minute video. I think we've tried our best year in and year out, and it's literally an impossibility. But I'm going to try my best to start rounding this up. Matt, it is time for predictions. Go for it, mate. What is your prediction for the game tomorrow night?
I'm going to go for a Desmond. I'll go for a 2-2.
Oh, just like the result just at the end of the Project Restart there. Before I give you my predictions, let me bring this up, which is actually the last 6 years of fixtures between West Ham and Newcastle. You can see there that, you know, in the last few seasons, we've not had a huge amount of success. Last winning and beating them at home in 2019, and then away from home 3-0 in that December. I was at the game, an amazing game. Felipe Anderson, Chicharito, really, really good result. But it'll be an interesting one. So you're going with a 2 each. I'm going to go for a 3-2. I think we'll concede again. I do think we'll concede, mate. I think we'll score and I think we'll concede. And I think what we'll see is a side where Moyes will come out of that and go, right, that's it. Decisions made. Put the money in.
Well, I think he's already said, hasn't he? I think
he
he's come
has,
out. I think Sean might have said today that his priority is in order is centre back, left back, right back, and they expect to get 3 players. He said centre back. Sorry, he said centre back, left back, right back, striker. Striker was 4th choice.
Yeah,
and they expect to get 3 players in. So that tells you that they expect to get centre back and 2 fullbacks in.
Yeah,
and I think in
I don't
a month's
think we need
time
2
or
fullbacks,
6 weeks' time,
unpopular opinion.
I think they will.
We don't need 2 fullbacks. Unpopular opinion, but we don't need it.
I don't think. I think Johnson had an off game, but apparently that was that game against Brentford between the two of them. Johnson was off for Moyes to decide he wants a right back as well.
I'll tell you what, then, right? I'll do you a bet. If we sign 2 fullbacks, I'll do some dare online on this channel. I'll eat hot sauce or whatever, and that's my bet with you, Matt. If we sign 2 fullbacks, I just can't see it, to be honest. Right. Anyway, listen, I'm sorry, we're gonna have to go because it's been too long. Subscribe to the channel, hit the thumbs up, comment on everything we've said tonight. We'll get all the comments. We will try and go through the comments, but we'll be here for another hour, and we have a life to live as well. Make sure you tune in tomorrow. We're doing a match day live. We'll give you some team news. We'll do the game, etc. Matt, are you around tomorrow? Are you watching the game?
Yeah, it's tomorrow. Should be tomorrow evening, isn't it?
Yeah, tomorrow evening.
It should be. Yeah.
Right, so we'll get you on as well. And yeah, thanks for watching. We hit over 4,000 subscribers this week, and it's been a bit of a mad couple of years, but yeah, we're growing. We're getting there. We're doing something slowly. So get your comments in, hit the thumbs up, and yeah, keep subscribing. He's been Matt over there. I've been Anton. This is Irons United, and come on, you Irons!